The night was bitterly cold, the kind of cold that silences even the wind. Officer Mark Harris sat by his fireplace, exhausted after another long patrol, when a faint scratching echoed at his door. He hesitated. No one should be outside in weather like this. But when he opened it, his heart nearly stopped. There stood his loyal German shepherd, Rex, shivering and covered in snow, carrying something small and lifeless in his mouth. It was a puppy, frozen stiff, barely breathing. Mark's hands trembled as he took it from him. Where had Rex found it? And why was he acting so desperate? What started as one dog's rescue would soon uncover a heartbreaking secret buried beneath the snow. Snow fell in heavy sheets, blanketing the quiet mountain town in white. Officer Mark Harris had just finished his late patrol and returned to his small wooden cabin on the outskirts of town. The wind howled outside, rattling the porch lights, and the temperature was dropping fast. Mark rubbed his hands together, ready to collapse beside the fireplace when a faint scratching sound echoed through the door. That he frowned, tightening his grip on the doorknob. No one should have been out there in this weather. Slowly, he unlatched the lock and pulled the door open, his breath caught in his throat. Standing there, covered in snow, was his loyal K9 partner, Rex, shivering violently. But what froze Mark in place wasn't the sight of his dog. It was what Rex carried gently in his mouth. A tiny, motionless puppy. Its fur was crusted with ice, its small body limp, and its eyes barely open. Rex whined softly, nudging the puppy closer as if pleading for help. That Mark's heart pounded. "Oh God, where did you find this little one?" he whispered, scooping it up into his arms. The storm roared behind them, but inside that cabin, a rescue story had just begun. Mark rushed to the fireplace, gently laying the frozen puppy on a soft towel. Its tiny chest barely moved, each breath weaker than the last. "Hang in there, little one," he muttered, throwing more logs into the fire. The flames crackled to life, filling the room with warmth. He wrapped the puppy in a blanket and rubbed it carefully, trying to coax life back into its frail body. Rex stood close, his fur still dusted with snow, eyes locked on the puppy. He refused to move, his ears twitching at every faint sound the tiny creature made. When Mark brought a bowl of warm milk, Rex sniffed it first, then nudged it gently toward the puppy as if urging it to drink. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, a weak whimper escaped the puppy's throat. Its body trembled, but it was breathing again. Mark exhaled in relief, emotion flooding his chest. "That's it. You're safe now," he whispered as he adjusted the blanket. His eyes caught something unusual, a faint, half-torn collar tag around the puppy's neck. It was old and rusted, but one letter stood out. R. Mark frowned. "You had a home once, didn't you?" he said softly. Rex tilted his head, as if he understood. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, hope had just flickered back to life. The morning sun broke weakly through gray clouds, casting a pale glow over the snow-covered forest. Mark zipped up his jacket, glancing down at Rex, who was already pacing by the door, restless. The puppy, now wrapped warmly in a basket by the fire, whimpered softly as if sensing what was coming. Mark placed a hand on Rex's head. "Show me where you found him," he said. Without hesitation, Rex bolted out into the biting cold, his paws crunching against the snow. Mark followed close behind, the wind cutting through his coat. They trudged through drifts until Rex stopped near a patch of disturbed snow by the roadside. There, half buried beneath the white blanket, lay a small cardboard box, its edges torn and wet. Mark crouched down, his breath fogging the air. Inside the box were faint paw prints, tiny ones. His heart sank. Someone dumped them here, he murmured, anger flickering in his eyes. Rex barked once, his nose to the ground, then darted toward the trees. Mark followed, his boots sinking deep. The forest grew denser, quieter. Then Rex stopped again, sniffing the air with urgency. There, ahead in the snow, were faint drag marks, leading deeper into the woods. Mark's pulse quickened. Whatever had happened out here, it wasn't over yet. Rex moved with purpose now, his paws leaving a trail through the untouched snow. Mark followed close behind, his breath heavy in the icy air. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it an eerie silence that made his heart race faster. Suddenly, Rex stopped, ears perked, tail stiff. He began digging furiously near a small mound at the base of an old pine tree. Mark dropped to his knees beside him, brushing away snow with his gloved hands. Beneath the frozen crust was a small hollow, half covered with branches and leaves. As he cleared it, a faint, heartbreaking sound met his ears, a weak, muffled whimper. Inside, two tiny puppies huddled together, barely moving, their bodies stiff from the cold. One lifted its head weakly before collapsing back against its sibling. Mark's throat tightened. Oh no, they've been here all night. He quickly wrapped them in his scarf, tucking them close to his chest for warmth. Rex whined, licking one of their tiny faces as if trying to wake them. Snowflakes melted on his fur, but he didn't care. He stayed close, protective and trembling. Mark looked at his partner, voice soft but breaking. You brought one home last night, and now you led me to the rest. Rex gazed back at him, eyes glistening, as if to say, we're not leaving anyone behind. Back at the station, the small break room had turned into an impromptu rescue center. The three puppies lay wrapped in blankets near a heater, their tiny chests rising and falling rhythmically now. Rex lay beside them, his eyes half closed but alert, guarding his newfound family. Mark stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear as he spoke with the animal control unit. The collar tag you found? Officer Daniels asked, leaning over Mark's shoulder. Mark handed it to him. The faint engraving was barely visible, but with the right light, the letters spelled out part of a name, Ravenhill Kennels. Daniels frowned. That's the same place under investigation for illegal breeding. Mark's heart hardened. So Rex didn't just find lost puppies. He found evidence. Within hours, a small task force assembled. Guided by Mark and Rex, they returned to the forest and traced the trail back to an old, abandoned shed. Inside were cages, frozen water bowls, and more signs of neglect. The scene was haunting. When the report came through, the officers exchanged heavy looks. Several dogs had been abandoned during the storm to hide the operation. Mark knelt beside Rex, resting a hand on his back. You didn't just save lives, he said quietly. You uncovered the truth. Rex wagged his tail slowly, eyes shining in the dim light. Weeks passed, and winter slowly loosened its grip on the town. The snow melted into glittering streams, and the once frozen forest began to breathe again. Inside Mark's cabin, warmth filled the air. Tiny barks echoed as the three rescued puppies tumbled around the floor. The smallest one, the one Rex had carried home that stormy night, now chased his tail with boundless energy. Rex watched from his bed, tail thumping lazily against the floor. Mark smiled, crouching beside him. You did good, partner, he said softly. Better than any of us could have done. That afternoon, the police department gathered for a special announcement. The chief stood at the podium, holding a small plaque. For extraordinary bravery, compassion, and service beyond duty, he said, pausing with emotion, we honor K9 Rex. Applause filled the hall as Rex trotted forward, ears perked, eyes bright. Mark knelt beside him, pride swelling in his chest. Cameras flashed, but all Rex cared about was the faint sound behind him, the soft yips of the puppies waiting outside. Later, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Mark looked out over the horizon and whispered, sometimes heroes don't wear badges, they wag their tails. Rex let out a low, contented bark, his gaze fixed on the little lives he had saved.